They were afraid for her. They were worried that she was going to be made a fool out of. And sure enough, when she walked out on that stage, it kind of looked like her siblings were right. But then, of course, what happened? As soon as she opened her voice and sang, out came the voice of an angel. And the judges and the people in the audience were shocked. And what's happened since that day? Susan Boyle has sold over 40 million records. Her music has touched millions of lives. She has traveled all over the world, performing at the greatest concert halls in the world, places she could never dream that she would ever go to. And at many of those concert halls, after she performs, the people applaud and they say, "Bravo." And bravo comes from the Italian word which means brave. That's what they're saying. What courage it took for her and the life that she led and the way that she appeared to walk out on that stage and to share her gift with the world. To great courage. That's what today's gospel is all about the courage to share our talents and to not hide them because we're afraid. Now, as you can tell from Jesus' story, in Jesus' day, talent was a sum of money. It was about $1,000. So to have 5 talents was a lot of money for back then. But the word we use today for talent derives from that story. Jesus isn't just talking about money. He's talking about all of the gifts that God has given us. Just like the master gave the servant those gifts to use for him, God has given us gifts to use. And look what happens to those first 2 servants. They take the gifts and they use them. They invest them. And they are able to bring in even more for their master. But it's that 3rd servant who is afraid. That's why he hides the money, because he's afraid. And what happens to him? Well, it says he's cast into darkness, and that there's weeping and gnashing of teeth. Because when we live a life where we do not use the gifts that God gave us, we will live with sadness, will be unfulfilled, will be unhappy, and will be very much like what Thoreau said, that many men live lives of quiet desperation, and they go to their graves with their songs still in them. Susan Boyle could have gone to her grave with her song still in her. She could have, out of fear, said, you know, I'm not going to go to that audition. And I'll just live in my small little house with my cat in this little village and just have a nice, quiet life. And she could have done that. But if she didn't do what she did, she wouldn't be living this rich, full, abundant life that God wants for every single one of us. You know, the symbol of the UCC is a comma. I wear that on my stole. And it means God is still speaking to us and through us. God put us here with gifts so that we could continue to create and beautify and expand and build on this good, to create an even greater good. So that when we die, we can say, these are the talents you gave me, and look what I did with them. I created something great. Now, I wonder why so many people are like that 3rd servant. Like the people who go to their graves with their songs still in them, like Thoreau said most people do. And I think it is like that 3rd servant. People are afraid to share their gifts. I think of hoarders. Hoarders are people who are afraid to let go of stuff They take what they have and they keep it in their house and they hide it away. And they can't let go of it. And what happens to them? They are not free. When we do not share our gifts, our purpose, our reason for being with the world, it's like we live in a hoarder house. We're not free. But Jesus in this gospel today says that we get to live in great joy with the Master when we do share our gifts with the world. So, what I want to talk about today is I want to talk about what happens when we live in fear of using our gifts. Because I think so many people say, well, you know, at this point in my life, I'm too old to start something new. Or no one in my family has ever done something like this before. Or what will people think? Or maybe I'm not good enough. And it kind of keeps people from sharing their gifts. So I'd like to address those. First of all, the one that says, well, maybe I'm too old to make this happen. Well, first of all, look at Susan Boyle. I mean, no one ever thought that a woman of her age would have #1 records around the world. But she is certainly not the only example. You know, Julia Child did not start cooking until her 40s. She said, it took me 40 years to discover my true passion. She said when she was 40 years old, she didn't even know what a shallot was. And it wasn't until she was 50 years old that she published her first cookbook. And she was 55 when her television series began. Then there is J.R.R. Tolkien. When he wrote the first of his Lord of the Rings series, he was 62 years old. Wow. And another author, Laura Ingalls Wilder, who wrote the Little House on the Prairie series of books, she started writing that first book at the age of 64, and she finished the series at the age of 76. And those books have meant so much to people. They obviously was turned into a very successful long-running television series, which is still shown all around the world and still touches people's hearts. And then many of you are familiar with the 20th century artist known as Grandma Moses. Grandma Moses didn't pick up a paintbrush until the age of 76. And the reason that she did was she always embroidered, but at that point her hands had gotten so crippled with arthritis that she couldn't hold the embroidery needle anymore. So she decided she'd pick up a paintbrush and paint. She never had any art training at all. And she painted over 1,000 paintings. And those paintings are in museums in New York and Paris and Vienna, places that she herself never visited. So these are just some examples of people who discovered their passions later in life, but look what happened. They created not only abundance for themselves, but they created abundance for the world, and they were able to glorify God through that. Then what about some of those other fears? The fears of, well, I'm not good enough to do this, or what will people think if I do this? Well, for that I would like to share with you these words that are written by the spiritual writer Mary Ann Williamson. She says, our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we're powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be talented, brilliant, gorgeous, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us. It's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. We're not just doing this for us, sharing our talents for us. When we live a life of passion and purpose, we help liberate everyone else. We inspire everyone else to do the same. And so this week, I would like to encourage you to again consider, what is that inner voice inside of you calling to express more of? Because that little nudging is your purpose and your passion. And it is never too late to begin to bring that forward into full expression. When we do so, we bring about a life of freedom and abundance for ourselves, for each other, and for our God. Namaste.
Namaste.